Okay guys, welcome back to another episode of Equine Photo School. I'm your host, Olie, and let's talk about keeping track of photos and contestants. You know, which contestants have which photos, where to find them, how to find them in the booth, super fast and easy. You're gonna make life better for your crew. It's gonna be simple. Your customers are just gonna be blown away because not very many other people are doing this. I know because they tell us that everywhere we go. They say nobody's got a system that's this efficient and this nice. We just sit down, you guys know where our pictures are at, and we don't have to, a lot of photographers are like, tell me what shirt you were wearing, what color is your horse, like what's your breast collar look like, that sort of a thing. And they're trying to just look through thumbnails endlessly to try to find you. That's not how we operate. We're gonna find you based on a number system. So as your contestants come out of the box or they run, they run to the first barrel or whatever, they are in order. They are in order starting at run number one, team number one, whatever it is, all the way out to however many there is. And the announcers can keep track, everybody can keep track except for photographers apparently, because a lot of them don't. But I keep track the same way everybody else does. I ask them for what they call a manual timer sheet. There's a lot of different names for this, a day sheet, whatever you want to call it. But this is kind of the general format here. You're going to have your run numbers here. Right here, you're looking at ones that start with 100, 101, 102, 103. And then you'll have columns for round one, round two, round three. And you'll have their, like the partners, like their hometown. This is at a team rope in here. So the first one's header, second one's heeler. It's got all the pertinent information, right? At the very top it says that this is the number 13.5, this is rotation 2. So it tells you everything that you need to know on this sheet. Now what you see here is these two lines we scratched out for round 2 and then total on 2 because we didn't shoot the second round of this. The second round was in another arena, and then they would come back here for their short round, for third round. But you just have to kind of know how your event is operating. You have to know like how many rounds there are, what's going to happen if there's a second arena. Are you shooting it? Is there a second photographer that you have that's shooting it? What's going on? So figure that out first, obviously. But then once it comes down to after team 101 runs, you'll just look at the back of your camera and there's 4 digits in your file number for most cameras, especially on Canons. That's how we operate. On the 1DXs, it just lists it right on the back of the camera, has a little LCD screen, super easy. I know the Nikon like D5, D6s, they do that too. It's really nice, just look at that screen. But even if you have a different camera body, you can just push preview on the back and it'll show you the last frame that you shot, and that will have the 4-digit number. I started doing this when I had a 70D way back in the day. I've done it with my Sony cameras. I've done it with all kinds of cameras. It works. So you just take that and you'll write it down. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. There's 4 digits. And then the next team will go, and that might be 1, 2, 4, 5 or something, right? And that space in between there, that's how many pictures you've taken of that team, of that run. Now, everybody gets their first round, right? So that's easy. Let's look at one where we didn't have everybody that roped their first steer, right? Or that roped their first steer and then they had to move on after that. So let's look at one of these sheets here. If we just flip to another section here in this old notebook here. Okay, we've got right here, you can see everybody gets their first round, and this can look really messy. Luckily, somebody here had good handwriting. It wasn't me, I promise. But they got their first and second steers, and then this is the total on 2 columns, so I always ignore that column to kind of help break up the thing and not confuse my booth crew. And then you can see on the third round, this team number 27 and team 28, neither of them made it to the third round, so we just left that blank. You'll see right here I've got an underline here for team 29. So team 29 in the first round they got a time, in the second round they got a time, and then in the third round we gave them a line because they got a time in both of those, and then we put a line there so we know that when we come back around through third round that we can write there, and we'll skip these. So you can see all the ones that have a line also have numbers. The lines come first. We go through that on the previous round when they know that they've caught, and then they come back through and makes it easy for us as photographers. Now you'll see over here all these little R's right here. These are rolls. So we know that this team rolled, and then their first, like their initials or their team number or whatever we hear, if we hear the announcer just say names, like in this situation here, it looks like CC. So whoever, back anywhere in here, if your booth crew is dealing with partners and their last names both start with C, or their first names will start with C, or something, you can find that. Your booth crew can find it easy. They say, well, they rolled us. So then they look in the margin here for the roll teams, and then they're like, Chad and Carrie, that they roped here. So that must be the last digits. Let's start there and then just go backwards from there. Super easy. When your booth crew is looking up photos, they can just go one after the one before. So they just add one digit to the run before, and that's where that run starts. So if we look at our example here, if we're looking at team 30 in the first round, we can tell, well, that's a bad example. Let's look at team 31 in the first round. So if we add 5, 8, 9, and then just add 1 to here, so that 5, 8, 9, 2, that's where their run starts. So you would just start at 5892 and then go to 5908, and that's how many photos we've taken in that run. That's all of their pictures, and then we know when that run ends too. So the other thing you can do is if you are just selling big bulk and everybody gets all of their pictures from that run, from all of their runs or whatever, your booth crew can go through here quickly and easily. They don't have to look up the photos. They can just add one, grab that section of photos, dump it into a folder, and blow and go really fast. It makes life super, super simple. Now, the next thing, let's look at one that is maybe even easier than that, but still straightforward. Let's look at one of these that is, let's look at this breakaway, for example. So these get kind of confusing because they don't start with 1 typically. 1 is down here, but these are all the ones that are more than they expected to enter, because they start, when they enter them, they start with the end in mind and then work backwards from there. But let's look at this. You see round 1 here, we use these numbers, same thing that we did at the team rope, and we're writing them down. So this is the order that they come out. So you see that's your number 1, that's where they start. Now in the second round, they start here, and that becomes your number 1 as far as the arena is concerned, but your booth crew still needs to only concern themselves with these numbers on the far left-hand side. These are the contestants' draw numbers, and they don't change. The order in which they rope does change in a breakaway, for example. Same thing with calf roping too. It works the same kind of way in most cases. Now sometimes at a breakaway they will just do first round in like correct order, normal order, 1, 2, 3, 4, numerical order, and then they'll do the second round in reverse order. So just know your sport, know what's happening at that particular event, and you'll be fine. It's easy to keep track of this way. The other thing that you'll notice too here is that I'm using a blue pen. I have a blue pen today, and I'm using a blue pen at all of these. What happens is in the booth, we have multiple copies of this same book, the same 3-ring divider with all of these tabs and all of this stuff going on. We will have multiple copies of this in the booth, and I want one to keep as the originals. I scan these with my phone, or somebody from my booth crew scans them with their phone, and then we put it into the hard drive, so I always have a digital copy of these sheets forever, into perpetuity. So it makes it super simple, super easy. I don't have to keep these hard copies laying around. I'd have this whole room full of notebooks if I did that. So that's out of control. We like to try to keep everything digitized, keep it on hard drives, keep it together. That way when we go into the hard drive and we're looking at that event, the day sheets are right there in it too. We just put a Z and then day sheets to keep it at the bottom so it's out of the way when we don't need it, because it's rare that we need to access it later, but when we do, it is so worth having. I'm always very happy with my previous self when we did that. Oh, for like the short round, you're going to have a new set of sheets, so you don't have to worry about keeping track of who's made it to the short round and whatnot. Just have your booth crew go and grab another sheet for the short round, and that will come at a different order. So this is the short round for this 12 and under breakaway, and this is the order that they rope in, this number here, and then we'll go this way. This is also from long to short, so their fast time is here. High call is right there, so their place in the short round is this column here. Now in a team roping, you won't have it look exactly like this, but it's the same kind of concept where we run short, slow, I guess, slow to fast, and then you'll just have this in your sheets. And you can see here, I wrote everything off in the margin because this blue ink on this dark gray background doesn't show up. It's hard for my booth crew to read. It's really hard to make copies of. So just try to make it legible, try to make it easy for your booth crew to understand and figure out. Okay, I can't stress this enough. You've got to know your sport first and foremost. If you are brand new to team roping, you don't know how this works, it's all new and fresh and crazy for you, this will help you understand what's going on. It'll make life a little bit easier for you, but you need to do your research. You need to figure it out ahead of time. Being prepared, it will never hurt you. Always kind of understand what you're getting into, what you're dealing with. If you're new to the sport, do a lot of research before that event starts. Don't just walk into it blind, right? And then these sheets will make more sense to you the better you understand the sport and what's happening. You can get it. Now, there are people that will help you. The office crew at the arena, they could maybe help you, but try really hard not to bother them. They are under a lot of pressure. They have a lot of stuff going on. Make sure that your booth crew, whoever's going to get these sheets for you, understands not to pressure the people in the office. Those ladies and gentlemen in the office, they have a lot of stress on their plate. They're trying to put on a whole roping. The least of their concerns is to give you sheets, right? So just be chill, relax. I always carry in the top of this thing there's like an extra little compartment here in this clipboard. Under that, there's always some like blank pages, so I can just keep track of the first, maybe even dozen or 20 or 30, however many it takes. Depending on how busy the ladies are in the office, it could be a while before I get sheets. So I always keep track of them myself and then transfer them over to the sheets when I get actual real sheets. Or you can just keep some old copies and flip them over and write on the back. That's why these are in here, actually. But just whatever you can do to make life easier for you, easier for your crew, and then, be courteous to the people around you as well. The other thing that you're going to want to do is we break up our photos into groups of 25 or less for the website, just to kind of make it easy to upload, easy for customers to find online, just because they're not going to look through this sheet. They're not going to understand what all this means. They don't get it. This isn't really for them. This is for us. The nice thing about divvying up into groups of 25 is you have that right here. So whether that's, just their order number that they roped in, or if it's their draw number themselves, whatever, just put even if this doesn't start, let's look at this example back here where it didn't start with 1, right? So this order number, I would just look at 25. There's your 25. So then you would put on your website 0.92 to 17, right? And then you would go from 18 to wherever that lands, and that would be here at 42, right? So then you would just group it like that and then list it on your website as such so people can find it, because they might not always know their name, but they'll know their number, because that's what my buddy Farron always says on the PA. Cracks me up every time, man. He's like, if you don't know your number, at least know your name. No, that's not it. If you don't know your name, at least know your number. These contestants are going to remember their numbers even if they forget their name, but if they do forget their number, they can still look up their names. Like, you have both here, so there's always a way to find their pictures. If it's a huge event, like if there's a truck open and you have 1,500 teams in there, if they forget their team numbers, I just hand them a book and say, here's a note card and a book. You can find that, and that's a good reason to have one extra copy for those that do forget. Then you kind of put that burden back on them, because they should remember their team numbers. They should go and just take a picture of the draw sheet. Super easy. Then they have it on their phone. A lot of them use their Redneck Palm Pilot here, and they write it on their hand and they go wash their hand and it's gone. Tell them, just start training your customers. Take a picture of that thing so you've got it when you come to my booth. We can look you up super fast and easy, and then you're not having to wait on other people that are doing the same thing. We all kind of train each other, right? We help each other out. So here's an example of a sheet where I had to handwrite this whole thing. As you can see, it's obvious that is my terrible handwriting. But they never had draw sheets for this because they only had a handful of entries. So they wrote it by hand in the office as well. They never put it in their computer system. So then we had to handwrite it ourselves. But I just drew up kind of the same thing. I tried to write down their numbers, their names the best I could. And then, you just kind of do the best you can with what you got. But this is still, even though there's only, a dozen of teams here, a dozen of entries. This is a calf roping, they're not teams. But it's still way easier to find them if you're keeping track, even at a very small roping like this. It's always kind of the same. Like all of these events run very similar, so you can have the same system no matter where you're at, no matter what you're shooting. Okay, let's look at one more team roping sheet. I just want to iterate this one more time just so everybody's got it. I might have breezed over it a little bit too quickly on the first go around here. But let's look at this. This one is cleaner. It's a little easier to read and understand. So we're here at the Patriot Vegas. This one is in Glen Rose. This is when we moved it to Glen Rose. This is actually the last rope and then I shot. We start with team 1, and there we start out here. The last digits, the last 4 digits of the file number of that team that we shot goes right here. And then the next one, the next one, next one. So everybody gets their first steer, right? So as we go through here and here, everybody got their first one. Then on second round, you'll see that we put a line like this here. We missed it there. So if you miss it, you still have to listen. You still have to pay attention. You still have to understand what's going on in the arena at the time, so you're not all jumbled up and messed up. But just like that, where I drew the line just right now, what I would do, let's say that this isn't here yet. Let's say we haven't roped the second round. When team 4 catches, we just put a line there. And then when we come back on second round, we know that there's probably where we're going to pick up a team right there. So we're going to skip 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 is first out. And then we'll know that 6 is second out, and 7 is third out, and so on and so forth, because we already have all of these lines here. Now I've got this question mark here because maybe something happened, maybe there's some kids screaming behind me, who knows, but I couldn't hear what team we were on, and I know that we weren't down here at team 18, but we were past team 10, so I know that somewhere in this blank space that this 0721 belongs to one of these. So we're at least narrowing it down. Now, there's only one team that roped in there. So somebody comes to the booth in here, and let's say it's team 12, and they say, yeah, we caught our second steer, where's it at? And then my booth crew just looks down and they see this question mark. They're like, well, this is probably you. Because, maybe Olie just didn't hear or something happened, and or maybe the announcer just said names and I'm waiting for a team number and then he never said one, and then I didn't get their names jotted down before they actually roped, and so I just put a quick question mark because we're moving on to the next one. If we're running 120 teams an hour, there's not time to sit here and write out a full name to, there's just too much. So I just put a question mark. I'm not sure, if there's any kind of discrepancy. But it's easy for the booth crew to understand that when somebody in this section here claims they have a second steer and they roped again, they want to see that photo, they'll just come here and they'll look at that question mark, they'll see it, that's obviously who it is, and they move on. It's really simple. It's, can't be more straightforward than that, I don't think. Now everybody else here, the team 18, 19, and 20, they all got their second steer, but only team 20 got a time for their second steer, so they got their third steer. Now you see this line here with this blank. This means that I messed up. I thought that team 19 got a time, and so I put a line there, and it turned out when we got to them that we skipped over them. So they must not have. Maybe they flagged them out later. Maybe something else happened where they got a no time and I didn't hear it, but they didn't get a time, so I just left it blank. Now up here where this X is, they probably got a time on second round here, but by the time third round came around, maybe the header missed before I could even take one picture. If you just threw it in the dirt right away, who knows? So I just put an X because they got a time, but then they didn't get a picture. So I just plop an X right there and then just keep moving on and make life easy. Same thing happened here on team 21 here. Probably the header missed. So we just put an X right there. I didn't get any pictures of that team, so I just zip, quick, put an X. They're probably not going to come and want to look at them anyway, so no big deal. You just move on. And teams 22, they got their third steer, so we got them a line there. When we came back around, we wrote the numbers there, and then we moved on to short round. Now, it doesn't look like I got short round sheets for this at all, but here only 4 teams came back in the short round. So we just put 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I put my dashes to keep it separate so everybody knows what's the file number and what's their order number here. And then it's really clear, like 0777, that was the last photo that we took of the first team out, and then so on and so forth. And then high call didn't win it, so we put a little star right here where third high won it. So my booth crew can simply and easily swipe through when they're finding pictures to go with award shots. They can go and they find out who won it right there, quick and easy, and they can grab the best shot of that run and then send it in with the award shots and say, you know, this is who won the 10.5 60 over, and they say these are our winners here, here's their action shot, here's their award shot, here you go, put it in Dropbox, and then on we go. So that way magazines can have it, producers have it, everybody's organized, everybody knows who's who and what's what. There's one more thing that I want to show you guys really fast is just these tab dividers here. Now you've probably been already paying attention and you've seen that this is like this. We just put a simple little, you know, scratch piece of paper or whatever right on it real quick and easy. We swap these out for every event because we'll just reuse this notebook over and over and over. But this just helps your booth crew to flip through quickly and easily. You know, obviously we keep, you know, just one rope and one class in each of these dividers, so it's really easy. So here's the 3D breakaway, here's the open breakaway, the 15 and under breakaway, you know, whatever it is. So your booth crew can just ask the customers, like, which event, which class do you want to look at? They'll tell them, they just grab this little tab right here, and they flip to it, and there it is. Quickly and easily, you know how tabs work, right? So just try to be extra super duper organized. This will also be the exact same kind of system organization that you use in your folder structure for the events. You've got all the events broke down by class. You've got a customer folder in there. You've got day sheets folder. We'll show you all that in another video some other time. But this is mostly about how to keep track of who's who and what's what. But that's all part of it. That's all part of the system. Everything integrates together. So we got to talk about it. But I just can't. I'm not going to show it to you right now in this video. But just, you know, watch another video. I've got it covered, I'm sure. Okay, well that's it. That's all I've got for you guys for this one. So now you can better keep track of who's who. You can turn customers over in your booth faster. You're going to be much more profitable. It's going to be a great system. I hope you can implement this as well. And just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great.